Welcome to the debate. Real quick, if you're watching us on the NFL Nexus channel, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment with what you thought. And hey, hit that join button below to become a channel member for some exclusive content and perks.
Absolutely. Highly recommend it.
Right. So when you look at the 2026 Chicago Bears, you really have to ask yourself a fundamental question. Are we looking at a legitimate, structurally elite powerhouse? Or, are we just looking at an optical illusion caused by the absolute collapse of the landscape around them?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question.
Exactly. Today, we're dissecting the true trajectory of the Chicago Bears and their standing within this rapidly shifting NFC North. I will be arguing that General Manager Ryan Poles and head coach Ben Johnson have built a fundamentally elite infrastructure driven by offensive evolution and shrewd, sustainable management.
And I will be arguing that the Bears are a deeply flawed football team coasting on the relative weakness of their collapsing division rivals, all while masking precarious internal vulnerabilities that are frankly bound to be exposed when the actual season begins.
Well, let's get right into the foundation of this roster. When I evaluate the Bears entering this 2026 season, I see a team actively engineering its own success. This isn't a team backing into relevance. The Pro Football Strategy Network, PFSN, just ranked their offense number 3 in the entire NFL.
Right. Entering the season, yeah.
Entering 2026, exactly. Ryan Poles orchestrated the initial infrastructure, sure. But what Ben Johnson has done with Caleb Williams in his second year in this system is just remarkable. Williams has morphed into what everyone is calling the Iceman, just a clinical, efficient distributor of the football.
Sure, the numbers look great on paper.
It's more than paper, though. This front office secured a B- off-season grade, which is the highest in the division. And they didn't do it by luck. They did it by maintaining strategic continuity. By promoting Press Taylor to offensive coordinator, they ensure that the infrastructure supporting Ben Johnson's play calling remains completely intact. They set a high floor, and they are dictating their own ceiling.
I hear you, but context is literally everything here. The optimism surrounding the Bears right now feels entirely like a byproduct of their neighbors' failures. It's not about their own absolute strength.
You don't think a B- is a sign of strength?
Well, you mentioned that B- off-season grade, right? On paper, sure, highest in the division. But that grade only looks impressive because it's sitting right next to the Green Bay Packers' atrocious D- grade and the Detroit Lions' utterly chaotic offseason. We're conveniently ignoring glaring internal issues in Chicago.
Every team has issues, though.
Yeah, but this is a team whose run defense plummeted from the league's best in 2023 to among the absolute worst over the last 2 years. They have massive, lingering pass rush deficiencies, and they're facing a severe leadership vacuum following the exit of several critical veterans. When your status as a contender relies this heavily on the teams around you imploding, your foundation is actually highly fragile.
I disagree, because capitalizing on a division's weakness is exactly what elite teams do.
Is it, though?
Yes, but the Bears also have standalone merit that exists entirely outside of what Green Bay or Detroit is doing. Look, I won't deny the division is a mess. The Packers earned that D- grade, and obviously that's heavily exacerbated by Micah Parsons facing knee surgery and targeting, a mid-October return?
Yeah, mid-October at best.
Right. And the Vikings dropped 5 wins last year and inexplicably traded away their best edge rusher in Jonathan Greenard. And yes, obviously, the Lions are dealing with bizarre, self-inflicted setbacks. Releasing Terrion Arnold for playing cops and robbers is, it's certainly something.
Which is exactly my point.
Hold on. Evaluating a team solely by its division rivals is like grading on a curve when the student is already acing the material independently. The Bears' success isn't just relative to that chaos. If you look at Seth Walder's off-season grades, he didn't just rank the Bears best in the North. Out of all 32 teams, he only ranked the Dolphins, Chargers, and Bengals as having better off-seasons.
Wow.
That's absolute value, not just relative divisional value. Regardless of the Packers or Vikings' woes, you have to acknowledge the Bears possess a top 3 offense in the league.
Look, Walder's metrics look great on a spreadsheet, but we have to look at the practical application on the field. You're praising the Bears for being the smartest kid in summer school. Let's look at ESPN's projected starting lineups for the 2026 season.
Okay, let's look at them.
These were compiled by Mike Clay, Aaron Schatz, and Walder himself. They ranked the Rams at 1, Eagles at 2, and the Lions at 3. The Packers are still ranked 4th. The Cowboys and Jaguars are 5 and 6. The Bears, They sit at 7th.
7th in the entire NFL is still an elite roster projection.
But it's 3rd in their own division. Despite all this narrative momentum about a collapsing division and the Bears taking the crown, the actual player-for-player roster projections still rank Detroit and Green Bay ahead of Chicago.
Based on legacy names, mostly.
It proves the Bears roster isn't as elite in isolation as you're claiming, though. The foundation just isn't there when you line up the 22 starters against the rest of the league.
You can rank the Lions and Packers starting lineups highly based on historical production, but you cannot ignore that the Bears possess that top 3 offense. That offensive firepower is an absolute trump card in the modern league, and they're maintaining unprecedented stability for Caleb Williams entering his 3rd year.
Stability in terminology doesn't mean stability in execution.
Well, Press Taylor's promotion is masterful because it means Ben Johnson's vision is completely supported. You don't have the disruption of an outside coordinator coming in to implement new terminology. Plus, they're pairing that with positional coaching upgrades.
Positional upgrades? Like who?
Like bringing in Eric Stutzfield to coach the running backs. This is a man who led top-tier rushing attacks in Miami for 3 out of 4 years. He's perfectly positioned to take the baton from Eric Bieniemy's legacy and maximize DeAndre Swift and, Kyle Monangai. That level of continuity in the scheme, combined with Caleb Williams operating an offense he now knows like the back of his hand, is what builds dynasties.
Let's pause there. Because this concept of offensive continuity you're pushing is a complete illusion. You're talking about coaching stability, but you're totally ignoring the structural instability on the actual field.
You mean the offensive line?
Specifically, the offensive line. The Bears are entering the season with a staggering 40% turnover on the line. They lost Pro Bowl center Drew Dolman. You cannot overstate the impact of losing a Pro Bowl center.
I mean, I won't deny that losing Dolman terrifies me. Center is the brain of the line.
Exactly. The center is the apex. He's the player making the protection calls, identifying the Mike linebacker, setting the slide protections for the entire unit pre-snap. Last year, they had to frantically reinvent this line 4 games in, relying on Theo Benedett, Ozzie Trapello, and a recovering Braxton Jones.
They still managed to...
Without a cohesive line, Caleb Williams is going to be under constant duress. His completion percentage last year was only 58.1%. He cannot improve that metric if he doesn't have a clean pocket. Let me ask you a direct strategic question.
Go for it.
If this new, patchwork offensive line struggles and forces Williams into a safer, check-down approach just to survive, doesn't he completely lose the high yards per attempt and EPA that actually made this offense top tier in the first place?
That assumes the quarterback is solely responsible for overcoming the offensive line. But it ignores how Ben Johnson fundamentally structures this offense to insulate his personnel. Yes, losing Dolman is a major blow, but Johnson's scheme is explicitly designed to protect the quarterback by weaponizing misdirection.
Misdirection only works if the line holds up long enough for the play to develop, though.
But the misdirection is what actually helps the line hold up. By utilizing heavy pre-snap motion, Johnson forces edge rushers to hesitate and diagnose the run first. That split second of hesitation slows their upfield pursuit. It effectively gives a patchwork offensive line a structural advantage before the ball is even snapped. Look at the analytics from 2025.
The second and long stats?
Yes, Johnson was one of the only play callers in the league who consistently ran the ball on second and long and actually generated positive EPA.
Expected points added is a great metric, but running on second and long is historically a white flag.
Normally, yes. For most teams, running on second and long produces brutal efficiency metrics because the defense expects a pass. But his EPA was off the charts in those situations. Johnson uses a heavy reliance on the ground game to neutralize pass rush pressure entirely.
Even with a patchwork line.
Even then. So even if Williams has to take a check down, in this system, those check down to DeAndre Swift are highly schemed to generate yards after the catch. Williams doesn't need to force deep shots to maintain a high EPA. And we know that once the offensive line gelled last season, the Bears became the 3rd-ranked rushing team in the NFL.
The system manufactures efficiency when everything is operating smoothly, but that assumes the coaching magic can just seamlessly continue without the veteran locker room presence to hold the young players accountable when adversity hits. And that brings us to the reality of their defense.
The defense is young, but they have potential.
The Bears experienced an unprecedented brain drain this offseason. Tremaine Edmonds is gone, Kevin Byard, who literally led the league with 7 interceptions, is gone. DJ Moore is gone from the offense, and Jaquan Brisker, who provided the fiery, emotional heartbeat of that secondary, is gone.
Look, roster turnover is a reality of the salary cap era. You can't keep everyone.
To make matters worse, their elite cornerback, Jalen Johnson, just fell out of ESPN's top 10 list, down to honorable mention status, mostly because he spent so much time battling a nagging groin injury.
He's still an elite talent.
But Ben Johnson is entering his 4th year in this division. He no longer has the luxury of being the plucky underdog. He is the hunted now. He's going to have to navigate immense pressure without the veteran crutches he relied on to manage the locker room and those pre-snap adjustments on defense.
I see the loss of those veterans not as a fatal flaw, but as a natural, organic evolution of a championship-caliber roster. Coach Johnson actually addressed this directly during minicamp. He pointed out that this transition opens up vital opportunities for young players like Colston Loveland and Luther Burden III to step into leadership roles.
Organic leadership doesn't just sprout overnight. Expecting organic leadership to instantly materialize to replace Tremaine Edmonds and Kevin Byard is like hoping a newly planted seed will provide shade in a thunderstorm.
That's a bit dramatic.
They might know the basic code, but they don't have the muscle memory of a crisis. When a defense is on the field facing a 2-minute drill against a top-tier offense, you can't rely on a young safety finding his voice in real time. Byard and Edmonds were the on-field generals. They diagnosed formations, checked out of bad alignments, settled the young players down. You simply cannot fast-track that kind of intellectual capital.
You can't fast-track it, sure, but you also can't hold back your young talent forever. Furthermore, your point about Jalen Johnson dropping in the rankings is exactly why I'm optimistic.
Optimistic that he dropped to honorable mention?
Yes, because he is still only 27 years old. As Jeremy Fowler's report noted, when Johnson is full tilt, he has incredible burst and playmaking ability. Falling to honorable mention isn't a sign of permanent decline. It's the ultimate motivational fuel. He has the juice. We are going to see a highly motivated Jalen Johnson return to his all-pro form to prove the evaluators wrong.
Motivation is great for a highlight reel, but it doesn't fix a run defense that plummeted in the rankings. When you strip away the veteran anchors, you are left with the raw fundamentals of your roster. And this roster's defense is entirely unproven without the guys who actually lined everyone up correctly.
The margin for error on defense is managed by having a top 3 offense, though.
If the defense cannot get off the field, the pressure on Caleb Williams and that patchwork offensive line multiplies exponentially. The margin for error completely vanishes.
But Ben Johnson isn't relying on raw emotion. He's relying on structural advantage. He stated in minicamp that while he monitors league trends, his foundation is built on unwavering pillars of fundamental football. This team's ceiling isn't capped by the departure of a few veterans.
I just don't see how it isn't.
It is elevated by the continued mastery of an elite offensive scheme and a quarterback who has proven he can process the game at the highest level. They aren't just benefiting from a weak division. They have the absolute firepower to dictate terms to the rest of the NFL.
And yet, that top-tier offensive ranking is a very delicate ecosystem. It relies entirely on a rebuilt offensive line holding up against elite pass rushes. If they cannot protect Williams, the checkdowns will pile up, the efficiency will plummet, and the lack of veteran leadership will be glaringly exposed when the team inevitably hits a losing streak. They are a team skating on thin ice, wearing the crown of a division that essentially just abdicated the throne.
Well, what's fascinating is that despite our completely different reads on their ultimate ceiling, we seem to converge right at the line of scrimmage.
We do.
Whether you view the Bears as an elite juggernaut dictating their own reality or a fragile experiment waiting to collapse, the newly constructed offensive line's ability to gel quickly is undeniably the ultimate linchpin. It will completely dictate Caleb Williams' success and the realization of Ben Johnson's scheme.
Absolutely. It really highlights the value of evaluating sports teams through dual lenses. I mean, you have to analyze a roster's absolute talent in a total vacuum looking at the 40% offensive line turnover, and the loss of a Pro Bowl center. But you also have to understand its relative standing within the specific ecosystem of its division.
Right. Both things matter.
Exactly. The Packers' injuries and the Lions' chaotic decisions undoubtedly changed the math for Chicago. They grant the Bears a wider path to the playoffs. But a wider path doesn't magically fix Chicago's internal defensive issues or make their offensive line block any better.
Which means the true ceiling of the 2026 Bears remains one of the most complex stories of the season, requiring a lot more observation as the weeks unfold. Will that offensive scheme insulate the roster's flaws enough to sustain a true powerhouse run, or will the weight of their own vulnerabilities pull them back down to earth?
We'll find out as soon as the real heat hits in September.
That we will. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Make sure to keep tuning into the channel for more deep dives.